Did you know dementia often changes facial expressions long before diagnosis? For many families, those were the brain's first warning signs of decline. The worst part is that the seniors showing them had no idea anything was wrong. In this video, we'll uncover 6 strange facial expressions that may reveal dementia is already starting. What you learn today could help you save someone you love. So don't dismiss these signs. It's crucial that you catch them before it's too late. Let's dive right in. Number 1. Constant lip biting or pursed lips. Nina had always carried herself with elegance, soft-spoken, calm, and rarely fidgeted. But starting around age 69, her son noticed she was constantly pressing her lips together in a tight line. At first, he thought it was stress from ongoing health issues. Then she started biting her lower lip during conversations, even when nothing emotional was being discussed. It became more frequent, during meals, in the car, even while watching TV. Her lips would tighten, then tremble, and sometimes she'd mutter, "They'll hear me if I talk too loud," even though no one else was nearby. One morning, she bit down so hard during breakfast that she bled, then quietly whispered, "That'll keep them from hearing my thoughts." Her son puzzled and called the doctor immediately, and Nina was soon diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia. Neuroscientists explain that repetitive mouth movements like biting or pressing the lips can signal early frontal lobe dysfunction. This area helps regulate inhibition, emotional control, and internal monitoring. As it breaks down, patients may fixate on minor behaviors or develop paranoid beliefs that feed the habit, often without realizing it. Number 2. Overexaggerated surprise face. Jeremy had always been calm and measured, rarely showing big emotions and often joking that he didn't like drama. But when he was 74, his family noticed something odd about his reactions. He began responding to everyday situations with wide, exaggerated expressions of shock, eyes bulging, eyebrows raised, and mouth hanging open. They thought he was just being theatrical and brushed it aside for a while, but it became constant over time. He reacted with the same stunned face whether someone spilled water or shared good news. One day during a quiet lunch, when his wife lightly sneezed, Jeremy jerked back and fell from his chair. Then he shouted, "Don't scare me like that! Almost had a heart attack!" His eyes stayed wide for several minutes. That was the moment she knew something wasn't right and called their doctor the next day. Jeremy was diagnosed with vascular dementia later that month at age 76. A major study warned that exaggerated or inappropriate facial expressions often reflect early damage in the brain's frontal lobe, which controls emotional filtering and response control. The reaction still occurs, but it's disconnected from meaning. What looks like overacting is actually the brain losing its grip on emotional regulation, revealing the early stages of cognitive decline. Number 3. The one-sided smile. Marilyn, 80, had always been warm and expressive, known for her full, even smile and cheerful presence in any room. But roughly 3 years before her mixed dementia diagnosis, her daughter noticed something odd about her expressions. At first it was subtle. She'd smile during conversations, but only one side of her mouth moved. It looked like a smirk or a crooked grin, especially when she was talking about something serious. Over the years, Marilyn began laughing at inappropriate times with the same lopsided smile frozen on her face, even when no one else was speaking. The final straw was when she smiled with that same strange face while watching a news report about a tragic earthquake, saying, "That's what happens when the ground gets tired of holding them." She had never been the kind of person to say something so horrible. That was the week her daughter realized something was deeply wrong and finally sought help. Experts confirm that abnormal emotional expressions, especially asymmetrical smiles, can point to early damage in the brain's frontal and temporal lobes. These areas control emotional regulation and facial muscle coordination. It looks like sarcasm or confusion, but may actually reflect deeper dysfunction. The smile is no longer responding to what's being said. It's being triggered by misfiring neurons. Most don't mean to wait. They just hope it's stress, aging, or something that will pass. But with dementia, waiting often means losing time you can't get back. Let's continue. Number 4. Blank, unblinking stare. Darren had always been expressive with his eyes. He used to wink at jokes and raise his eyebrows when surprised. But his wife noticed something unsettling soon after he turned 67. He started staring at people without blinking, holding eye contact far too long. It wasn't just spacing out. His eyes looked fixed, almost too wide, and it felt like he was staring through people instead of at them. He once sat motionless in his recliner for over an hour, staring unblinking at a dark corner of the living room. When his wife finally asked what he was doing, he said, "You see her still standing there? I'm waiting for her to move first." There was no one there. That moment finally pushed his wife to schedule a neurological exam, and Darren was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. It was almost 2 years after the first sign was noticed. Neurologists explain that an unblinking, locked gaze may signal early damage to areas of the brain involved in attention, eye coordination, and emotional engagement. It may seem like intense focus, but it's actually a breakdown in natural reflexes. The brain no longer tells the eyes when to blink or shift, and the result is a stare that feels vacant, eerie, or wrong. Number 5. Sudden twitching or tics. 75-year-old Denise had always been physically composed and graceful. But in the 2 years leading up to her Alzheimer's diagnosis, her husband noticed subtle twitches in her face. Her cheek would pulse, her nose would wrinkle, or her lips would jerk for no clear reason. At first, she said it was nothing, just a muscle spasm. But soon her expressions became unpredictable. Her eyes blinked rapidly during normal conversation, and her mouth would twist as if she were reacting to something no one else saw. One day during lunch at a restaurant, her mouth kept twitching as she chewed, and she suddenly froze mid-bite and whispered, "She's trying to chew for me. She wants my food." What she said didn't make sense. That was the final straw, and her husband finally realized he couldn't handle it alone. Research shows that sudden facial tics or twitching can appear when dementia affects motor control centers deep in the brain. These movements aren't always voluntary and may even be misinterpreted as irritation or nervousness. But in reality, they often signal early neurological breakdown, especially in forms of dementia linked to movement and visual hallucinations. Number 6. Delayed emotional reaction. Frank had always been quick to react, smiling mid-sentence, tearing up at emotional stories, and laughing right on cue. But when he was 81, his family noticed his emotions felt out of sync. When someone told a joke, he would sit expressionless, then suddenly start laughing 10 seconds later, long after the moment had passed. At a funeral, he didn't react during the eulogy, but wiped his eyes silently during the drive home. It kept happening on and off in the 2 years leading to his Alzheimer's diagnosis. The breaking point came when he burst out laughing during a moment of silence at church, chuckling, looking up like he heard something from the air above his head. His daughter scheduled an appointment the same week and blamed herself deeply for not acting much sooner. Studies indicate that delayed emotional responses can signal early damage to the brain's frontal and limbic systems, areas responsible for recognizing and reacting to emotional cues. The brain still processes the information, but the timing becomes scrambled. What feels like awkward or inappropriate behavior is often one of the first signs that emotional regulation is beginning to unravel. If you noticed even one of these signs, don't wait. Early detection could mean more time, more clarity, and more connection with the ones you love.
And there you have it. What are your thoughts? Next, dive into this video for more essential tips to transform your health and help you thrive. You're going to love it. Thanks for watching Healthy End, and we'll see you there.